the gloves are off, the lawyers are picked, and everyone is getting ready for war, or at least for litigation. Because NewJeans has announced that they will be legally represented by the same lawyers that are representing Min Hee Jin. Hello, I am K-pop World, and welcome to my channel. So today we are talking about NewJeans. I feel like I've been avoiding this topic for a very long time, but it is time to finally discuss it. So buckle up because this is a rant video. Recently, NewJeans made a statement replying to Ador's injunction. And to be fair, they don't seem very happy in this statement of theirs. Also, the statement feels very Min Hee Jin-y, like it feels like the same people that write her statements were writing this statement, but a conversation for another day. I'm not going to read the whole statement, it's super long, but basically they're just saying like they're not going back to Ador and that going back to Ador will just put them in further mental distress, which is not something that they want, obviously. They also go on to accuse Ador of media play, which I would comment on, but I only see the international articles. I do not see domestic articles, so I have no idea what kind of articles are being posted in South Korea. Another thing they mentioned was the certification of content, where they gave Ador 14 days to resolve the matters in the certification of content, or they would be leaving, which in fact did result in them leaving Ador and terminating their contract. So something they said in the statement was that Ador did not resolve the matters in the certification of content within the time frame that they were given. They also say that Ador accused them of not waiting until the 14 days was over before terminating their contracts, which is technically true, but they don't see it that way. So here's the thing. When the certification of content was sent, Ador had 14 days to resolve the matters in the certification. Now, obviously, Ador did not resolve the matters. So legally, Ador had 14 days to respond to the certification of content with the reasons why certain things happened the way that they happened and why certain matters cannot be solved as easily as the girls probably wanted them to be solved. And to be fair, though Ador did send in their response very late on the last day, they did send it in. The court will see it as they did give a response to NewJeans' certification of content. Now, a lot of the stuff, if not all of the stuff that is in the certification of content that NewJeans sent to Ador is very emotionally charged for me personally, because this is stuff that NewJeans are technically not involved in. It doesn't involve their contracts in any way, shape, or form. The only thing I would say that was in the certification of content that has anything to do with NewJeans themselves and maybe their contracts would be certain photos and videos from their pre-debut days that Source Music put out without their consent. I would say maybe that has something to do with them, but legally speaking, Source Music has ownership of those videos and those photos because NewJeans were trainees in Source Music and they were under contract at the time. So legally, unfortunately, against the girls' will, Source Music is allowed to use those videos and those pictures and they are allowed to post them if that's what they want to do. And then there were certain things about employees in the Hybe company and not necessarily in Ador, which Ador cannot really take care of because this is something to do with the parent company. That's like a whole different ball game. And considering the court is going to look at it as NewJeans is contracted to Ador, Ador is technically legally not obligated to fix that whole issue because this isn't something to do with employees in Ador. This is to do with employees in the parent company. Another point from the certification of content was something to do with a director that works with the NewJeans members that basically directed most of their music videos, if not all of them. And again, that issue is on the business side that has nothing to do with the girls. That does not in any way breach their contract with Ador. That is Ador's contract with whoever the director was. And if it was such a big issue, this is something that the director should have brought up to Ador and not the girls bringing it up and using it as an excuse to leave the company. And then lastly, obviously bringing back Min Hee Jin, which is insane because that, again, not a breach of their contracts because unless it is written in their contracts that they will only work for Ador if Min Hee Jin is CEO, that does not breach their contract. And give me a break. Bringing back Min Hee Jin, are we kidding? Again, Hybe worked super hard to scheme against this woman to get her out, and now they want to bring her back. Also, Min Hee Jin was voted out by the board of directors, so NewJeans technically does not have a say in whether she comes back or not. Not to mention, she quit on her own. So from what I've understood from lawyers on YouTube who are practicing in South Korea right now, it seems these are the points that NewJeans is going to have to argue for leaving their contract. And honestly, considering most of the lawyers on the internet on YouTube have basically thrown out most, if not all, of these points by saying these are not breaches of contract, I don't think it's going to be too difficult for Hybe's lawyers or Ador's lawyers, Hybe's lawyers, to throw this stuff out in court and make it official that they did not breach their contract with the NewJeans members and that the NewJeans members need to return to Ador. This whole NewJeans, Min Hee Jin, Ador, and Hybe feud has literally taken a turn for like the worst, because this whole thing started out as an audit that Hybe was very much allowed to conduct into Ador because that is their subsidiary company. And then suddenly it's just blown up into something so huge. I cannot believe we are in 2025 and we are still talking about Min Hee Jin versus Hybe, Ador versus NewJeans. Honestly, the injunction that Ador has put on NewJeans' activities is probably the worst thing that could have happened to them right now, because they're not releasing any new music and they apparently don't have any new scheduled lined up. So if we look at it from the bigger picture, it is obvious that Ador is doing this not just for themselves, but also for the NewJeans members. Hear me out. I know nobody thinks that Ador is on NewJeans' side, and maybe they're not, and maybe they're just covering their own asses, but still, this is probably for the best. If NewJeans go on and make independent deals or sign independent contracts with brands or other companies, then it could backfire on them should the lawsuit with Ador fail and should they have to go back to Ador, because then Ador can sue the brands for working with their artists without coming to them first, which is like a breach of contract. And then brands are not going to trust NewJeans afterwards because it means that they trusted them enough to work with them, while the members knew very well that should things go wrong, they are putting companies and brands in a very difficult situation. This could overall result in their brand reputation taking a dip. As of now, I think despite everything that's going on, NewJeans still technically have a really good brand reputation, because I think brands still want to work with them. They're still very beautiful girls, very successful, very talented girls, despite the whole debacle right now. And they also have a lot of selling power. So they have a very big fandom of buying fans. Now, even though this sounds all good and well, it does seem like the injunction has put a pause on a lot of the things the girls may have had in mind of doing, because one of the things that they said they were leaving for is so that they could do their own things, so that they could pursue projects that they themselves wanted to do and make the music that they wanted to make. And for the most part, what we've been seeing or what we've been hearing from the media is that they were going to partner with a lot of brands and be ambassadors for brands that they never worked with while under Ador. And the injunction has basically put a halt to all of that. And this could go on for a very long time if Ador and Hybe decided that they wanted to drag it out, maybe to teach the girls a lesson. This could go on for like a year. Although I'll be honest, I don't see it dragging on for that long, because Ador has announced on multiple occasions that they do want the girls to come back and go back to working as NewJeans. Not only that, but they have mentioned that there are plans in place for NewJeans for the year. Stuff about tours, new comebacks, and a bunch of other things that they have lined up for the girls. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're just saying it to sound good in the media, because honestly, all you can do is judge words. Words really have no emotions. They could just be words. And Ador could just be planning to put them in the basement just to punish them for a little bit. I will say though that I think Ador has been as classy as possible publicly, even though I don't think they're really like that. That's just me personally. I think publicly they've been trying to be the bigger person, look like the good guys. And I'm going to be honest, whether it's fake and just for publicity or whether this is for real, this is them, I'm impressed, Ador. I am impressed. The one thing I did not like that Ador did that I do think is worth mentioning is them talking about Honey's visa status. Now, I don't know if this is because they felt like this was an urgent matter and they felt like they had to urge the girls to come back so that they could renew Honey's visa application as soon as possible, or if this was just them trying to show the public that, like, hey, we're trying to do our part. The girls are just the ones that aren't cooperating. It just felt like they were trying to get the girls back into the company by force. I feel like at the end of the day, should things go wrong with the injunction, should things go wrong with their lawsuit, NewJeans is going to be forced to go back to Ador should things go wrong for them. But I don't think them trying to force the girls back into Ador using Honey's visa situation was the best way to go about it. I hate that they publicly announced that. I don't feel like it was necessary to publicly announce that they were working on Honey's visa reapplication, because that whole thing just opened up a new can of worms where netizens, people, haters felt that they had every right to talk bad about Honey because she is not from South Korea. Not only that, the whole thing with the National Assembly as well, Ador really just opened the door for haters and people to criticize Honey very, very terribly and make xenophobic remarks that were totally unnecessary. Now, we also need to talk about who is counseling the girls legally, because from what I've seen on YouTube from lawyers that are practicing law in South Korea that understand the law of entertainment, from what I've seen and what I've heard, there's very few lawyers, if any at all, that think NewJeans could win the case. If anything, all of the lawyers that I've seen have basically said they're going to lose the case because there's nothing in their certification of contents that shows that Ador breached their contract in a way that was unfixable or in a way that demanded or required that the girls split from their contracts. Now, something I've been seeing on Twitter since this whole case with NewJeans and Ador started, since the girls left, is fans were posting threads of all of the mistreatment that the NewJeans members suffered while under Ador since before they debuted, it would seem, because the whole thing with Minji's mom talking about how she lived in a cockroach infested rookie dorm and whatnot. But like a lot of the stuff that the fans were posting, a lot of the mistreatment that apparently NewJeans went through, all of it happened under Min Hee Jin. And it's so weird that they've gone through all of that mistreatment under Min Hee Jin, but they would still want Min Hee Jin to come back to the company, and that would have been the reason for staying. I'm not sure if fans are forgetting or if it's something that we've just chosen to overlook, but Min Hee Jin wasn't actually kicked out of her position that long ago. It was on the 20th of November that she got removed from her position as CEO and the new CEO stepped in. So all of the stuff that fans are trying to put on the new Miss Ma'am, or if they're trying to put it on Hybe or on Ador, it doesn't change the very clear fact that NewJeans were under Min Hee Jin when they allegedly suffered all of this mistreatment that fans are posting about. This means that it was on Min Hee Jin to fix whatever problem or whatever mistreatment the girls felt that they were going through. This takes us back to the whole matter of Bang PD ignoring the girls in the company whenever he sees them. This was a matter that happened under Min Hee Jin, and when the stories came out, it seemed like nobody was aware of it because it wasn't something that was reported. And then suddenly Min Hee Jin needs a helping hand, and here we go with all the stories. It's like, are you serious? So we just kept quiet about this whole thing and we said nothing until it was needed, and it was needed as a weapon. If NewJeans were to go to court with all of the mistreatment that they allegedly faced that was under Min Hee Jin, I think their chances of winning would be a lot less than it already is right now, because the court would find it so weird that all of the mistreatment that they faced that is supposed to be the reason for their termination happened under the woman that they want back in the company as CEO. How does that work? I thought it was funny how everyone's comparing the NewJeans situation to 50/50, because I don't think it's the same. It's similar but not the same, because with 50/50, they actually had a plan to move into a bigger company. That was the whole reason for them leaving. They wanted to be in a bigger company, bigger budget, more benefits, all of that stuff. All of the good stuff. Whereas with NewJeans, it seems like they just left and their plan was Min Hee Jin. I don't know what the plan around Min Hee Jin was, but Min Hee Jin seemed to be the plan. I think it's really terrible that they left without an actual plan of action, without any backup, and it seems without any good legal counsel. Because how is it that their legal representation is saying it is okay for them to just leave their contracts, while every other lawyer is saying, no, you cannot just leave your contract. That's not how it works. If NewJeans really was facing mistreatment in Ador, and if it really was so bad that they couldn't stay anymore because of all the breaches of contract, and maybe because they didn't feel safe, maybe they weren't being properly taken care of, if all of that is true, why not gather the evidence and then file for contract termination? Now, it is true that when it comes to K-pop litigations, a lot of the times the companies win and the K-pop idols end up losing a lot more than just the court case. They end up losing their whole careers, and it's really terrible. But the South Korean legal system is not that bad. Like, it's questionable, but it's not that bad. If you really do have the evidence to back up your word, most of the times you will get out of your contract without having to pay penalty fees or whatever other fees they try to put on you, and you may be able to go on with your career. Though you may not be as big as you once were, you will still have a career. So if it is true that the girls were being mistreated under Ador and under Hybe, I wish they had put the evidence together and gone to court. I know going to court would probably put a halt on their activities, but that's where we are right now. Their activities are being halted regardless. So they should have just filed for contract termination instead of what will soon become a very, very lengthy process, and it's going to be incredibly terrible. I think people forget how young NewJeans are. I hate saying this, but they are technically still kids, even though they are between the ages of like 16 and 20. I mean, we're averaging at 18. I cannot tell you, I was still in school at 18. Okay, you're still a child. You barely know the world. And don't get me wrong, I more than anyone hate the excuse of, oh, they're just children. They don't know what they're doing. They clearly do know what they're doing, but they are still very young, and it is very sad to see. Another really big thing that I wasn't a fan of when it came to not just them leaving, but everything before they left, all the statements they made, a lot of the statements that they made almost put them morally above everyone, or at least that's what it felt like to me. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but they always talked about how Hybe only cares about money. Hybe doesn't care about the music. Hybe doesn't care about ethics and marbles or whatever they said. And it felt like they were putting themselves morally above everyone else. Because honestly, if they're saying we're leaving because Hybe doesn't care about music, Hybe only cares about making money, what does that mean for the rest of the groups that have chosen to stay at Hybe and have never complained about how Hybe runs their company and how the subsidiaries work? Are we meant to believe that the other groups and the other members of these groups are choosing to stay at Hybe because they're making top dollars instead of making good music, or instead of caring about the music, it's really just about the money? What are we saying here? This is what it felt like to me. It felt like they're putting themselves morally on a high horse while everybody else is just down with Hybe and making a shit ton of money without making good music or without considering the music and the artistry of it all. My biggest question in this whole debacle as of now is, how do the girls go back to Hybe, and how do they go back to Ador after everything they said to the press, after everything they've done? Like, how do you actually go back to working in a building full of people that you told the media do not like you? Honey went on national TV to say that it feels like there's people in the building who do not like them. There's employees in the company that do not like them, and it felt like some of the executives were sabotaging them or something like that. I don't know. Something like that was said either by her or either by the other members at one point or another. How do you go back to working in that building? I believe I said this before, but contractually, nobody is obligated to like their colleagues or their employers. You just have to respect each other and work well. Just do your job. So I don't think contractually anybody is obligated to like the girls. They just have to do their jobs properly. But now the question is, if you're an employee of Hybe or Ador and you're being asked to work with the NewJeans members after all of this drama, how do you work with them? I feel like it's either going to be a really toxic environment to work in, or everybody's going to be walking on eggshells around the girls because you have to tiptoe around them. One wrong look at the girls and who knows, you might be the next headline and they might say, yeah, everybody's giving us the stank eye. Everyone's giving us the side eye. Nobody nobody respects us and nobody works well with us. Like, how is that going to work? I feel like everyone's going to have to walk on eggshells just to get their jobs done because they don't know if the girls might just come out, put out a press conference, or start a new channel and go live and tell all of their fans and the whole world that things aren't going great because people just don't want to work well with them, or people don't want to work with them at all. Also, according to reports, it seems NewJeans were actually given a lot of privileges in terms of things that they got, resources, and all of that stuff. Things that other idols were not privy to, whereas with the NewJeans members, it was. So my question is, if Hybe decides to take back all of that stuff, if they decide all of these privileges are unnecessary and that the girls don't deserve them anymore, and they take it away and the girls are left to go on with their careers, with their lives, with the usual stuff that other idols would be given, would this in turn make them say that they are being mistreated because privileges that they previously had that were normal to them have been taken away? Would this be their version of mistreatment once again? It was like just a thought I had. Because if you're used to having something in your day-to-day life that is a privilege, but you don't know it's a privilege because you always have it, and one day it's taken away, it feels like you've lost something that is a necessity. I feel like that would be the case for the girls. Right now, I think ideally the best thing for the girls and for, let's say, Ador and Hybe is for the girls not to return to Ador. I just don't think it would be a good environment for them. I feel like it would be very toxic, very hostile, not only because of how they left and the mess that they left behind that everybody else had to clean up, basically, and the difficulty that they put everyone through having to work without the girls around and having to make contact with them not being in a place where you can easily access them. But also the statements that they put out that made Hybe and Ador look really bad, that and being in cahoots with Min Hee Jin. I feel like all of this would put the employees in a very weird place, and possibly executives as well, higher ups, having to give all the stuff to NewJeans, having to organize all these big functions, all these big sponsorships from all these luxury brands and all this stuff they always get. Don't get me wrong, beautiful girls, very talented, they work for that shit. But Hybe does do all the money stuff. All of that while knowing that the girls could potentially turn on you again, turn on the company again, and tell the media that they are out once again. I feel like they've just made themselves a very risky group to work with, even within the confines of Hybe and Ador, should they go back. So I think ideally, this is like fantasy. This is like if I'm thinking in rainbows and sunshines, which K-pop is not. I think ideally the best thing for the girls is for them to not go back to Hybe or Ador. I do think that they should keep the NewJeans name, and I do think that they should keep their songs. I feel like they are very close to them and they do mean a lot to the girls. I think ideally they should consider sitting down with Hybe and Ador and renegotiating their contracts where they get to do their own independent stuff while using the NewJeans name, because that name actually carries a lot in terms of brand reputation. They get to keep the name, they get to keep the songs, and Hybe gets to profit from them while they get to go on and do their own things with it. They do their own things with Min Hee Jin, join a new company, whatever. I think as long as Hybe and Ador get to profit from it, they might consider it. But to be fair, from what we've seen so far, Hybe is at an advantage, so they can choose to do whatever the hell they want. And if we know Hybe the way we know them, they probably are going to drag the girls back into the company kicking and screaming, figuratively speaking. Unfortunately, that's not how the world works, and they're going to have to go through the court system. They're going to have to fight it out in court, even though they were trying to avoid it. It seems that Ador is not letting it slide just like that. And to be fair, I don't know what they expected. This was always going to be the outcome. They were always going to have to go to court either way. If the girls did all of this for Min Hee Jin, which according to reports from Dispatch, thank you Dispatch, finally they're doing their jobs, it's not worth it. All of this really was not worth it for Min Hee Jin. And I say this because despite Min Hee Jin having a very bad reputation with the public right now, like people don't trust her, like she is a terrible person. If personally, that's my opinion. I just don't think Min Hee Jin is a good person. But she is a good producer and she would make a great girl group or great boy group. I don't know. But she could create a new group. and they could do amazingly because she makes really good music and she does know what she's doing. So despite people not liking Min Hee Jin, they would still go and support a group that she put together or music that she wrote for other groups maybe, which means Min Hee Jin could get a job after all of this litigation stuff is over. But the girls are different because they are tied down by a contract. And should things go wrong, they will be forced to comply with their contracts and go back to Ador and Hype. I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm not seeing all of the angles and all of the sides. Maybe there's stuff that I'm missing. Maybe the girls do have a couple of tricks up their sleeves and maybe they did gather the evidence and I'm just talking a lot of shit because I know nothing about what goes on in K-pop. But of course, these are just my opinions and you are free to share yours with me in the comment section. Subscribe if you go on to like this video. Please hit the thumbs up. And of course, until our next dance with K-pop, goodbye.